Let's get some analysis now from Associate Professor Robert Kelly, who joins me now from Busan, South Korea. He's from the Department of Political Science and Diplomacy at the Busan National University. So, Professor Kelly, Kim Jong-un says nuclear weapons won't be used unless the country's sovereignty is infringed upon. Ambiguous much? What do you read into this?
Well, that in itself is not a bad thing. Nuclear powers traditionally have said that nuclear weapons are intended solely for deterrence and defense. It would be extraordinary if the North Koreans said they did not intend to use nuclear weapons like this, because that would suggest they intended to use them offensively or something, which of course would be hugely destabilizing. This doesn't mean, of course, that we want North Korea to have them. It would be better if they did not have them. But if they must have them, it's nice to have them on the record saying they intend to use them for defensive purposes only. We're not sure if we can believe that, but it's better than nothing.
We've also heard the North Korean leader announcing a 5-year economic plan for the country during this Congress. That considering how much North Korea's economy is squeezed by UN sanctions right now, how big a deal is this?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question, whether or not the 5-year plan will make any difference because of the level of sanctioning. North Korea could, I suppose, pursue greater integration with China if the 5-year plan were to actually lead to greater economic development with its relationship with China. That would actually be something of an improvement. I think the other important thing that the 5-year plan suggests, though, is that resources will now be turned away from the military and back into the economy. This is one of the reasons for nuclear weapons. If you have them, you don't need such a large army. And I think by going out and saying we're going to have this 5-year plan, we're looking at economic development. You know, North Koreans haven't heard that stuff since, I don't know what, maybe the 90s, maybe the 80s. You know, for 20 years, it's been all about national security, which is how North Korea explained all the privation, and now they're actually talking about development. That, too, is a good step.
In terms of its military, it seems that more emphasis was given during his father, Kim Jong-il's rule. Now, how is the establishment going to, react to being sidelined, so to speak?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question as well. I'm not really sure. My sense is Kim Jong-un has tried pretty hard to bring the brass under control in the last few years. There have been a lot of purges, there have been a lot of arrests and executions and stuff like that. And I think part of this, my own sense of this, all of this, including the Party Congress and the purges, is an attempt to push the military out of politics, particularly out of the budget, right? North Korea is very poor and very dependent on China, in part because its military is so large. It's become a real predator on the budget. Well, nuclear weapons mean you don't need this large conventional military anymore. So now you can bring the party back to life. You can talk about nuclear weapons for defense, and you can say to the generals, we don't need you anymore. Your share of the budget will have to decline. And that helps alleviate the dependence on China problem, too.
In the last hour or so, I'm not sure if you were aware of this, but we've heard reports of 3 BBC journalists being expelled from the North. What is described as a disrespectful reports. How much of a PR disaster is it for North Korea, considering how eager it was to show off its advances in the country?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question, too. Is it a PR disaster for them or not? My own sense is no. I mean, the North Koreans have a pretty poor relationship with the media. They don't really respect it, and they certainly don't believe in free press traditions or anything like that. BBC is actually pretty heavyweight, too. I'm actually surprised it took steps against BBC. I mean, maybe something genuinely happened. I doubt it. But it doesn't surprise me that the North Koreans would use sort of explosive language about attacking the state or something like that to go after reporting they didn't like. I mean, this is just par for the course for media firms that operate in North Korea. AP has a bureau in Pyongyang, and they've been criticized for this kind of stuff, too. It's just very, very difficult to report on North Korea without any kind of backlash. This isn't the first time this type of thing has happened.
All right, Professor Kelly, thank you very much for your time. That was Associate Professor Robert Kelly from Busan National University in South Korea.